It feels like this conflict, this most recent bit of extreme violence between Palestine and Israel has been going on a lot longer than just 11 days, but that's all it's been. I thought it was longer. If you would have told me, I would have asked probably, a couple of weeks at this point. Not far off, but at least this round of hostilities has ceased for the time being. And that's really great news, because 283 Palestinians, 12 Israelis, they've perished, but this round's over. So I guess everybody has time to stock up and get ready for the next fucking round of insanity, because this is a ceasefire. Nothing's really solved. Everybody's just like, okay, we are kind of tired of blowing up each other's stuff, so can we just chill for a minute? Okay, fine, whatever. The office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that the officials have agreed to a ceasefire with Hamas after 11 days of fighting. And if you can recall, Hamas has been designated a terrorist group since 1997. But they're definitely the party of legitimate claims. A statement from his office said the security cabinet ministers agreed to accept the Egyptian initiative for a mutual ceasefire without any conditions, which will go into effect at an hour that will be determined later, 2 o'clock in the morning. So that could be going on literally right now. So there shouldn't be any more rockets flying, at least for the time being. Yeah, like I said down here, they would enter a mutual and simultaneous Gaza truce at 2 a.m. on May 21st, which, with the time change, depending on when you're watching this, is probably already in effect. It came after President Joe Biden spoke to Netanyahu over the phone and urged for a ceasefire with Hamas earlier this week, according to the White House readout. And we got to get into that. I think the only reason why Netanyahu agreed to the ceasefire was just to get Joe off the phone, because he probably started getting a couple of his old man stories. Probably picked up the phone and was like, "Hey, BB, it's great to hear from you, man. So listen, I was talking with Kamala the other day, and we were out there playing with the dogs, and you guys have dogs over there, right? And I had one that decided to bite on one of my Secret Service people, and it was terrible. We had to send him back up to Delaware, and what do you like for your ice cream, man? I know you guys don't like to work on Saturday," and oh my god, it was probably just to get him off the phone, for fuck's sake. So Biden takes credit for the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas and promises to replenish Netanyahu's defense system, including the Iron Dome. Yes, because if you're going to be funding the Hamas side, you might as well fund the Israeli side. And yes, the United States does fund Israel to the tune of, billions of dollars a year in order to sustain its existence, because without the Iron Dome, those 12 people that are dead in Israel would be 10 times, 20 times, 30 times more, because there were hundreds of rockets sent over from the Palestinian side. So let's give you a breakdown of how Joe Biden is truly and completely the most unifying president of our time, and still the most popular. I mean, have you seen the recent media polls out there? Oh my god, they're off the charts. He is such a great unifier. President Joe Biden took credit for the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas and promised to replenish Israel's Iron Dome defense system to ensure security in the future. Yeah, because those Iron Dome missiles, the heat-seeking missiles that get rid of, Palestinians all willy-nilly, their $100 bombs, those Iron Dome defense rockets, they are likely $50,000 a piece. So they can shout Allahu Akbar at the fucking border and just fire them off for days, spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on the Palestinian side, but it gets a little bit too costly for the Jewish side. For the Israelites, Israelites are totally different people. For the Israelis, they'll eventually bleed them dry, and it's just not a sustainable system. That's why Netanyahu had to initiate the ground war, because, it's much more cost effective. It's very complicated, incredibly complicated, but at least the Great Uniter was there to fix everything. We've held intensive, high-level discussions, hour by hour, literally. He said in a brief remark Thursday, everything that Joe does is brief because he can barely maintain consciousness. Remarks Thursday evening from the White House Iron Cross Hall, with the aim of avoiding the sort of prolonged conflict we've seen in previous years with hostilities have broken out. Yeah, it's, for all intents and purposes, just another fucking fresh set of Band-Aids. There's Nothing's solved. This is just going to be a ceasefire. And like I mentioned earlier, since the fighting began on May 10th, health officials in Gaza say 232 Palestinians, including 65 children and 39 women. Oh, it's so fucking terrible. Shouldn't have launched rockets in the first place. Have been killed and more than 1,900 wounded in aerial bombardments. And one very important Associated Press / Hamas cover building was also destroyed. Israel says it has killed at least 160 combatants in Gaza. Thank you for your service. Authorities put the death toll in Israel at 12, with hundreds of people treated for injuries and rocket attacks that have caused panic and sent people rushing into shelters. Yeah, so we don't really have a time frame of how long the ceasefire is supposed to last. My guess, probably a couple of months. I don't know. Everybody will get their fucking rockets and we'll just repeat the cycle that'll just continue on forever and ever. Unless, of course, this ends up leading somewhere. Okay, Netanyahu says a drone shot down by Israel earlier today was armed. And it was launched by Iran. Because if you got a coalition between Hamas and Hezbollah, that's going to be quite a fucking situation. A drone shot down in Israel this week was armed with explosives and launched by Iran. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Thursday. Netanyahu displayed fragments of the aerial weapon during a news conference in Jerusalem with Germany's foreign minister, according to reports. Iran sent an armed drone to Israel from Iraq or Syria, Netanyahu said. Iranian forces launched the armed drone, which our forces intercepted on the border between Israel and Jordan. Netanyahu added that the incident says everything on the true patron of terror in the Middle East and in the world, Iran. That remark echoed comments made Wednesday by former President George W. Bush, who blamed Iran. Of course, one of George W. Bush's greatest regrets when it comes to being president was that he didn't get to invade Iran. He had to settle for Iraq. For sparking the latest round of fighting between Israel and Hamas terrorist group and the Gaza Strip. The drone was destroyed mid-flight around 4 a.m. Tuesday, according to Israeli Defense Forces. Yeah, there you go. We got some of the wreckage washed up on shore of the armed drone, and clearly, if you needed a drone expert to come down there and verify who it was and what it is that was washed up on the shore there, I think you probably phone up old Barry Obama. He's incredibly familiar with drone technology. But just because the ceasefire in the conflict zone has come to an end for who knows how long, like I said, I think it's going to be a couple of months, doesn't mean that hostilities against the people in different countries need to let up anytime soon. And of course not, because guess what? These Palestinians are really taking it to the streets. They are not letting this fucking go. Maybe not Palestinians themselves, but people who support Palestine, like Black Lives Matter, issuing a response saying that we're 100% behind Palestine. Yep. Really easy to pick a side when you start to see everybody just kind of funnel into the right fucking places, and it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Pro-Palestinian mob reportedly attacked Jewish patrons at LA restaurant, because of course they do. Jewish diners at the Los Angeles restaurant were assaulted by pro-Palestinian mob during an incident that Mayor Eric Garcetti called an organized anti-Semitic attack. At least he called it out as being such. That's nice. According to the report, witnesses told CBS LA that the assailants were waving Palestinian flags when they were pulled up to the Sushi Fumi restaurant in Beverly Grove. A bunch of cars stopped, and maybe 30 of the men got out of the cars, started running towards the tables and asking indiscriminately, "Who's Jewish?" A woman who was at the eatery recalled. I just look for the guy who's probably complaining about the service. I would say you could just start there. That'd be a pretty safe assumption. It's tough to tell, right? Other than being completely dressed in black, which is what these terrorists tend to do, regardless of whatever they want to call themselves, Antifa, pro-Palestinians, Black Lives Matter, that's just their modus operandi. You can't really tell based on that picture, that fragment of a flag, what the fuck is actually going on, but clearly there's a conflict, and all we got is, well, the accounts of what's going on there. And it's not like it's anything really new, because you also got this one today going down in the Diamond District in New York City. Really brief clip. I'll just let you guys see it. And it's like, as you can see, Allahu Akbar. Yep, there it is. A fucking firebomb thrown. It's a very brief clip, but yeah. Fucking, you can see the Palestinian flag right there in the background. Yep. Moments earlier, device went off in what is said to be the Diamond District in New York City. It's not really hard to figure out who somebody who would be waving a Palestinian flag would be targeting in the Diamond District of New York. Pretty self-explanatory, right? And there was also a much larger rally going down in New York City that stayed very, very peaceful, obviously. I just needed to turn down the volume there. Yeah, as you can see, things were going great, obviously. Yep, people weren't, causing a ruckus or anything. That guy definitely isn't resisting arrest. I'm sure he was probably just being a good boy who didn't do nothing wrong. Yep, so that's going on in New York City, Los Angeles. Also across the pond in Hendon in the United Kingdom, a mother has spoken of the terrifying moment her car was rammed by a vehicle draped in a Palestinian flag moments before her leaving home in Hendon. A Jewish victim who asked not to be named was traveling to a friend's home with her 4-year-old son strapped in the back when the incident happened Sunday afternoon. It's understood he was wearing a bright blue kippah and she was playing Jewish music. Oh man, the kid was probably trying to break out. I couldn't imagine what kind of horrible screeching that would have been. Her account of the situation: as I came to the top of the road, I noticed 2 cars with huge Palestinian flags on their bonnet. I turned right, and both cars started to chase me down the road and rammed into the back of my car. As I approached the light, I put my foot on the accelerator and sped through a red light, trying to make my way through traffic, sorry. I turned into my friend's road, but the cars continued to chase me. Once again, I found myself with the foot flat on the accelerator, racing down the road, tried to find somewhere safe. Thankfully, I found a small alley where I parked my car behind a large truck. I called for my friend to check the cars had gone and made my way to his home to calm down. Very interesting how they would have been able to parse out somebody just driving down the road, maybe just playing Jewish music, and if she had a small child in the back seat, would she really be playing it all that loud? I gotta question that story a little bit. Seems a little bit hyperbolic, but at the same time, it's shit that we seen go down last week when I reported on what was going over there in London, where you had the people was like, we're going to rape their daughters and their mothers because they're Jews, because they're just so peaceful and tolerant and are all about coming to an amicable solution. Fucking animals, if you ask me, if you're going to commit that type of atrocious act. But yeah, so the conflict has ended in the Middle East for the time being. What does that mean long term? I don't know, but it sure looks like there's going to be a lot of conflict, and this is going to be the cause du jour for the rest of 2021. But don't worry, Biden's on the case, and he'll make sure everybody is going to be fine. Don't you put a lot of faith in the most popular president of all time? I know I do, because when I think of peace and solidarity, immediately I think of the man who knows the inside of a preschool classroom inside and out as the man I want to lead the charge in this cause. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.